Coming to you live from my brother's apartment where the Wi-Fi is good. It's WrestleZone, daily, nightly, whatever you want to say. After Monday Night Raw. And what a Monday Night Raw it was. It was something special. If you're with us live, don't forget to share that link, okay? Give this video a big old thumbs up, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. If you're with us on the podcast side of things, go ahead and subscribe. Especially if you're just listening on a stream or something like that. Subscribe to WrestleZone Radio. A bunch of different stuff is up on there. I'm Kevin Kelm, Dominic D'Angelo with us. Dominic, we just dropped in an interview up there with the old Manser, the man who goes to the pay window.
Yeah, old Manser, baby.
Old Manser's there. Dominic, I get you for 2 nights in a row. Dominic did the Double or Nothing post show with us. Got a lot of reactions on that. If you watched AEW Double or Nothing, go and check out that show, especially if you want some follow-up on that, some big old scooperoonies. Also, in the podcast feed, on the YouTube page, on Facebook, and of course at WrestleZone.com, the post-show media scrum with Tony Khan, AEW president, the new TNT champion, Cody, and AEW World Champion Jon Moxley. So you can go check out that right after the show. We got that exclusive audio for you. From Rest Friend. Hello, Rest Friends.
Hello, Rest Friends. How are you?
Iridian joins us after Monday Night Raw. She's been with the past few Monday Night Raws. There is something simmering here. There was a little hole back there, Iridian. Seems like there was a little tension. Seems like there's something you need to get off your chest on tonight's show. Am I wrong? Is there something there?
You are not wrong, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
We'll get to it, and it is something that's been online, and we will talk about it. And it will not be the first thing we talk about because wrestling is what we actually talk about on this show, not internet bullshit. Let's get into it. Monday Night Raw from the Performance Center. The show opens up. There's hockey boards around the ring. Are we at an NHL game inside the Performance Center? No, there's a crowd of WWE trainees from the Performance Center are present. We have live human beings booing, cheering, and reacting to professional wrestling in a WWE, sports entertainment in a WWE ring. This was quite the thing. What did you think of it? If you're with us live, go ahead and sound off. We got some people texting in here. Tina saying hello. All the good people watching here. I like this one from Jay Feliciano. He gets it. Jay totally gets the production of wrestling shows. I've talked to Jay about it before. Jay texting me says, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw hockey fights." Yes, they did have hockey boards. There was a crowd there. Iridian, what do you think of it? They had people booing and cheering during matches, something we haven't seen for months.
Yeah, I saw them announce this on Twitter, and I was excited because we know that AEW has been doing that with their wrestlers. I was just kind of shocked when I saw how many people there were. I feel like they filled up the entire Performance Center with their wrestlers, and they all had merch, which I was like, genius idea. Of course, WWE, sell your merch, right? Sell your merch. But I think it was a great idea.
If you ain't selling punches, you better be selling shirts. That's what you better do.
Exactly. And I thought it was really cool. The fact that you got to hear people chanting and, cheering and booing for people. It just added something to Monday Night Raw that it's been missing.
Mm-hmm. Dom, how did you feel about it, man?
I liked it. Like LeBron James once said, it's about damn time. And it's about damn time they did it because it's really came through. Like, I think it really added to the product. And they did put a neat spin on just having a crowd there because the hockey boards, man, I thought it added a really nice element to it that made it unique in its own way that WWE was able to kind of capitalize on. Plus the merch.
Also, you could say it adds another level of safety. And,
sure.
and the immediate thing I thought of, if they're doing this, I immediately thought, I was like, those hockey boards aren't going away. By the end of the night, I was like, they weren't put there just for a bump. Someone's going to go through the boards at some point. That's going to happen. All right? Let's just put it out there. Immediately when I saw the hockey boards, I was like, these are gone in one night if someone gets power slammed through one of these things. Like, those are going to be there on Friday night. Braun's going to try to throw someone through one of them. It's going to happen. It would be a wonderful symbolic moment if they get rid of the hockey boards when the pandemic is over. Like they just smash through the boards, the walls are down, we're back again. Like all that stuff. But I can see the hockey boards being there. Another thing about the hockey boards, and we'll get into actually what happened on tonight's Monday Night Raw. We have a new champion. We had some wild stuff from Asuka. We have a new number one contender. They really built up Bobby Lashley, another great Edge promo. We'll talk on all of that here. But this is something important for fans to pay attention to, because there is this whole talk of the new normal in sports and entertainment. There's already, and I can tell this, and Dom, already, you guys know people that work in music and entertainment. There is a very, very big discussion going on about how to present these events safely and do them with less people there and a higher level of safety. And, a big 7-foot plexiglass board on top of the ring guardrails is something to do there. You don't have sweat maybe flying into the crowd. What's to say you don't see those big giant nets you see at NHL games that are supposed to keep pucks out of the crowd? You don't see those there. It's a whole nother level of production. It's going to add a lot more stuff to setting up the show. Tonight was another. I noticed the light rig a little bit more too, so they added a little bit more production to it. Is this something we could see when live crowds come back? Those hockey boards there and precautions like this put in place.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I would feel safer at a show, and I feel like even for the wrestler safety, sometimes people be grabby. Mm-hmm. So when wrestlers come up, people like to go and touch the wrestlers. So I think this just, helps get rid of that situation altogether. And if you're going to be 6 feet apart plus, amen to that.
And this kind of guarantees that distance. It doesn't keep people far away from the ring, but it provides another level of safety. It looked like, all right, they're running this. They're trying to see how this works with actual people in front of it. I know a lot of people are going to complain. Dom, you saw this right away when tonight's show started. You and I were talking about it immediately when they did this. People were like, but AEW did it first.
Yeah,
it was just and I tweeted it out on the WrestleZone account with the fun thing that people do on the internet where they do the different letters and they make one a big letter and that one you miss.
Yeah.
And immediately people took it the wrong way. They did not know that it was a joke. And they took it way too seriously. And context is important. Another thing, we will bring that up in our big show closing segment, is context. How you say something is important. So I said it was a joke and people were like, no, this is ridiculous. And someone tweeted back like the perfect response to all this. It was like, guys, they didn't invent the idea of a crowd. What do you think of that whole? We're going to get these comparisons now. We're going to get these comparisons between AEW, how they do the kind of pre-produced crowd between each other.
Sure, you're going to get it. And when this whole started out, AEW had the crowds in. Then I think it was like the next week or a couple days after, Stephanie McMahon said, "Oh, we're not going to do that. We're not going to put the position." But time develops. Things happen, life changes with the unknown going on, and now you have it was time to pull the trigger. And if they jumped on it right away, people wouldn't be attacking so much about it. But
no.
They waited.
Also, AEW didn't have a ton of people at ringside right away. They
didn't. It was and then they slowly put more and more people in. And so, it was a developing thing. But yeah, and wrestling, come on, everybody copycats, everybody steals. It's the art of the business.
And no one invented the idea of a crowd, let alone a small crowd. You know what I mean? I heard some people saying, "Oh, this just looks like the old 1970s TV studio wrestling shows." And other people were saying that too. You can make that comparison. It makes a lot of sense. Kevin Joseph saying the plexiglass was great, but the ending eliminated the social distancing. The ending of the night was the Street Profits, who earlier in the night got to do mini golf challenges with Viking Raiders, continuing their "anything you can do, I can do better" segment. Well, I thought that was fine. I thought that was just fine, perfectly continuing their storyline without having them have to do a match. Adds a lot of character to the Viking Raiders. I didn't think it was hilarious, but I like that they got kicked off a golf course. I was like, those guys wouldn't last on a golf course. They're eating turkey legs. You can't eat a turkey leg on a golf course. But later in the night, Street Profits get made fun of by MVP, who's already been laid out by Drew McIntyre, who gave him a Claymore. He's managing Bobby Lashley coming up at Backlash. They get a tag team match. MVP, Drew McIntyre interrupts it all. Bobby Lashley wrecks some people. Street Profits almost get almost didn't get beaten. They didn't get beaten. The match got thrown out. So they did save face with Street Profits as your Raw Tag Team Champions, and the whole thing turns into a fracas. The trainees run around the hockey. They didn't stop. The boards didn't keep them away because they could run around the hockey boards and get into the ring and do the pull apart segment. Which is something a lot of people thought was probably too many people in the ring. What do you think of this here? We're getting Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. There's more fire on this than there was last week, but I don't think it's over the hill right now in terms of like a hard sell. I am more interested in Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre than maybe I was when they initially announced this. Yeah,
definitely. I think they're building it up. I mean, that's all that I can say.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel having MVP there adds so much there. Like the kind of the sleek style that he has, and just him next to Lashley, it adds a really good element to Lashley that I haven't seen in a while. That and even Montez Ford made fun of like Lashley's past few year or whatever it is been since he was slapping his ass, and it's you go into now he looks serious, now he's down to business, now you want to see like MVP just kind of rule the roost almost. He has that vibe to him, that presence about him, and I think he just adds so much to not only Lashley but the television product of Raw right now too. I think he's the MVP of the show, in my opinion.
You would have told me in January when he came back that MVP would be this critical guy who kind of moves the story along so much. He adds so much to Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley's never been known for a great promo. Doesn't mean the guy can't talk, but he's never been known to be a great promo. You do have that issue with Lana in the background that's kind of always been there, and you wonder where that's going to blow up. So there's something simmering there. And he does add this killer factor to Bobby Lashley, and he lays out the facts like, you're this talented, you have this MMA background, you can do all this stuff, and you haven't gotten your opportunity. And I like that, and the idea of his seriousness, like, I'm cutting through the crap, and I want the real money, I want the primetime stuff. There's something to be said for that, especially when there's a lot of noise and you have all these side characters in it. Jimmy Gotzi texting and saying MVP is a wrestling version of a meat bologna. You eat it, nothing left. Like MVP, no one was left backstage. Okay, so that's a pretty brutal takedown there. A lot of different people probably wanted it. In terms of the Viking Raiders versus the Street Profits, Laura Rock wants the alligator wrestling match that the Street Profits take. I don't know if I trust any alligators. It's tough now to even have wrestling matches, let alone gators. Gators don't know how to work. Come on now, man.
No, they can't read scripts either.
They can't read scripts. We got working wrestling bears out there. All right, we can't. Come on. They don't do working chomps. They do shoot chomps, man. They're gonna bite you. Scott George texting in saying Lashley needs some momentum going into the upcoming pay-per-view. Well, he nearly got it. He didn't get the pinfall victory over the Raw Tag Team Champions, though I thought they could have took the loss. If Lashley took them out on his own, I thought that would have made them look strong, but I was okay with what they did tonight. I didn't think it was great. So overall, some okay stuff on Raw. Something I thought was great, and I want your take on this. Very, very strong match. A follow-up from a few weeks ago when he was injured and removed from the Money in the Bank match. Apollo Crews returns and gets a title shot against the reigning United States champion, Andrade. And Selena Vega gets neutralized at ringside. We got the fans cheering. I'm feeling this is a hot opening match. And Apollo Crews, 11 years into his career, wins his first championship in WWE in exciting fashion. Clean in the middle. Apollo Crews is your new United States champion.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, it was.
I like Apollo, but he hasn't won me over yet. So maybe as champion he will. I wasn't super excited when he won. I was just like, oh, they gave it to Apollo. Like, who would have thought?
So there was you weren't
expecting
it, Iridian. You weren't expecting this.
No, I wasn't expecting it. But also now that I have time to process it, I'm still like about it.
Dom,
yeah, I'm in the same boat essentially because Apollo does great work, but how many times as a talent been pushed and pulled and then they get put in that position, and we've seen US title wins on Raw before. It seems like it's a common thing, so it's all about the follow through and the follow up and how they continue with it. They did, like, it's fine that they did it, and like, hey, it's cool that he gets the shot, but it could just as easily wash out as any of the other title reigns that's happened too. So it all depends on the follow up with it for me.
Iridian and Dom, those are great points. Iridian, you and I were at Raw in November, and we saw Rey Mysterio win the United States Championship there.
It was so good.
Yeah, but it was great to see, and it was a fun thing. But at this point, it does feel like an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
But it is a mid-card title. It is a title I think you can move around a little bit more. It isn't a world championship title, and there is something to be said for trying something new. The word has been that Apollo is a guy that Paul Heyman, the lead creative, and of course Vince McMahon have seen a lot of potential in. And if someone wants to say they're not trying with new faces and new things on Raw, they are. You're getting a lot of the Viking Raiders. You're getting a lot of the Street Profits. MVP is a new take on Bobby Lashley. Drew McIntyre certainly is a new take on the top of the card. You're not getting an overkill on Seth Rollins. So the fresh characters, I think, who they rolled the dice with earlier when the ratings were down are now getting a shot. Now, will those ratings come up? We'll find out later this week. But I like the idea of them trying. And putting the title on Apollo is another reason that they're trying with somebody they've had who you could say is always good hand, which is always a bad thing to say about somebody because that means they never really want to try anything with you beyond just have some good matches here and there. A lot of people chiming in here. Eric Padone saying, I do love Apollo. Very happy for him. Eric Padone also enjoying the crowd element. I thought the crowd really helped him winning that title. This is something I was like, I kind of wish this was at WrestleMania. That they had even just a small crowd like that at WrestleMania, but that was back in the time when having more than 5 people in a room was questionable, right? So we're getting into this. I do want to talk about this. This was something that was built up to for tonight's show, a triple threat match, number 1 contender for the Women's Raw Championship held by Asuka, who got that title at Money in the Bank. Becky Lynch out of the picture. We really need a fresh take on the women's division on Monday Night Raw and in WWE in general. And we got Charlotte, the NXT Women's Champion, Nia Jax, and someone who's been beaten up the last few weeks by Shayna Baszler, but in a title match. And it was Natalya. Now, a lot of people did not like this match before the bell rang. But the bell rang, and then what happened, Dominic?
It was a pretty good match, I feel, having those Natalya obviously is great at what she does.
Yeah.
And so having her be a factor in the match and be a part of the match in something where Nia is such a contrast to both Charlotte and Natalya, it created a very nice balance in it all. And having that dynamic in there, although from a storyline standpoint, it did not make sense. You think Shayna Baszler should be in there or should be involved in the mix somehow. That did not make sense, so that did take away from it. But overall, it sets up for Asuka versus Nia, and Asuka, I think, is the star of the show. She's going to be the one that you're going to build to. So
she
that's
certainly
what it really boils down to.
A lot on commentary. I want to pull up this image, but it's just too much for my screen. Her reaction, her reaction to the double power bomb that Charlotte and Natalya gave. The very large Nia Jax. She's the largest female professional wrestler WWE has right now that you can see on television. And to get her off the apron and get her positioned over the table and then see Natalya do the very verbal, obvious go, Natalya being the ring general, kind of saying, all right, we're gonna assist you right. We're gonna assist you right into this table. It was quite impressive, but us just be like, oh, it was just awesome. They did the 3-person suplex off the top. It was great. They broke up the pinfalls. It looked like at one point Natalya was going to tap. That got broken up. It looked like at one point Charlotte was going to tap to the sharpshooter. So I kind of knew at that point it's going to be Nia's match to win, but they definitely teased it long enough. They gave this match enough time to build up. Nia's a monster. She could beat up anybody. So it's going to take a lot of craft and skill to beat her in a straight up one-on-one match where she's on her feet. And it's believable that she can wreck anybody in the ring. You can believe it. So now it's her versus Asuka. I think it's going to be a lot of Asuka's tenacity, Nia Jax being a monster. What do you think of that match? Did they build it up the right way tonight?
Yeah, I thought that match was great. It was the best match of the night for me. Haters gonna hate. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says about my women's division. They killed it tonight. That powerbomb. That powerbomb to the announce table was, I was like, oh, yes, that is everything. It was so good. I was so entertained. The length that it went to, it was genius. It was my favorite match.
Scott George saying he's happy that Nia won. A lot of people angry that the match even happened because a lot of people just didn't know why they justified these people being in here. Why is Charlotte on my TV again? Charlotte has been on.
Also, Charlotte was on Raw again. If I had one complaint, she's everywhere.
Yeah, Charlotte's on Raw again, but was the match great? Yeah.
It was great, yes.
Was Charlotte great in that? Everyone bitches about Charlotte being on TV too much, but when she's on, you get the best match of the night. But don't stop me from bitching. Don't you stop me from bitching now with your logic and reason. Don't you? I want you keep me from bitching. Then why am I even a fan? You know, like it was like I was like, you guys were bitching about this match before the bell even rang. All right, and then it happened, and then Natalya reminded you that she was Natalya, and Charlotte reminded you that she was Charlotte, and Nia Jax looked like a monster. So what's the problem? Well, they didn't do the match that I said they should do on Twitter. It was like basically what I got out of it here. A lot of other fun stuff on tonight's Monday at Raw. Angel Garza got a clean win off of Kevin Owens, kind of clipping the knee and then doing the big clipper finish. I don't love Angel Garza's finish. This match didn't get a lot in the tank, but you could see later on it gave the triple threat match more time in the show. They had more time for segments and different things. But Angel Garza coming up on the card. He also got to tell people what sex was during the Apollo Crews match. He is a rising star. What do you think of Angel Garza tonight?
What can I
say
you want to go first? About Angel Garza? He is just fantastic. Mm-hmm. I've never wanted to be a backstage correspondent for Raw, more than I do now.
Elaborate on that, Ridian.
He literally just comes up to you and says some things in Spanish, and I'm just like, as I understand it, I'm like, wow, you are so perfect. I just don't appreciate his outfits, but I can get over that.
Okay. Are you saying that if he was to pull the suave Latin lover moves on you that they seem to be giving him, that seems to be his role, right?
Yeah,
but at the same time, hey, spell is casted.
It's working. I cannot help myself, Kev.
Swipe right. Swipe right. But don't they have him doing this with all of the backstage correspondents, right? He's done this with Charlie and maybe he tries it with Renee next. Is he going to try this with Renee next? That could be a little more awkward. But it is something where is there going to be some fulfillment? Is he going to get the proverbial like female companion to him, or is he still riding with Selena? That's where I want to know this is going. And it's very odd that they would give him time during another person's match, a title match nonetheless, to kind of go in this direction. And it got a lot of attention here. I do want to get your take on this. This was more a segment than any, even Steven Chambers, big fan of the show. Thank you, Steve, texting in again. Iconics attacked Bliss and Cross. The Iconics last week failed to get the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships off Bliss, Cross, Applesauce, and they slapped each other backstage. Now they're once again a united force, and they are back in the ring, and they say that, Nikki Cross, just don't talk. Let Alexa Bliss talk. She's going to interrupt us now, right? And Nikki Cross went off. In terms of talking segments in the show, this was my favorite. Nikki Cross did not get much of a. She got a script. She got a couple of notes because she was just drilling. I came from Glasgow when I was 15 and I had nothing. It was just awesome. And then you can see like Alexa to be like, I'm not gonna, like not saying anything. And usually in this tag team of Alexa Bliss and Cross, Bliss has been a bigger star longer. She's been on television a lot longer, and it was nice to see Cross get the heat there to hear you're going to run with the ball now. But that didn't last long. The Iconics kind of lay him out here. What do you think of this storyline? It's been going on for a few weeks. I don't think it's really moving the needle, but this is the first time where I really liked it outside of when the Iconics came back. Dom?
I thought like Nikki did a good job. I thought like her delivery and like just directed to the point. I don't like it when a lot of the talent, it was they did it with Cruz and then they did it with Nikki. They both say like they state the fact that we all know. Okay, I'm the tag team champion. I'm the U.S. champion. We know that, but I think Nikki did a really good job in this.
Dom, you and I know
Yes.
that. We always have to be outside of the bubble and think that a casual viewer does not know that. We always have to think that.
They're holding belts, though. They got the belts. That's my problem. But I will say, I think the Iconics, that line about like, hey, just let Alexa do the talk. It's such a good heel tactic. Like, just like downplaying it. I like just subconsciously I got pissed. I was like, come on, what the hell are you talking about? Let her talk. But I thought the Iconics did a very good job of that.
It was a very good, like, here, no. But it's really just a layup. Like, here you go, dunk on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it served a really good thing. Even though they kind of cut him off and even laid him out, I left myself thinking like, oh, I almost wish Cross just went off on him. Like, I wanted to see her smash.
Yeah.
But overall, this Raw had a lot more things that I thumbed up on. There were a couple of things that were like, all right, well, what's the point of this? I did think the stuff with the Raiders and the Profits, they told us they were going to have golf. I didn't know where that was coming from. We got Ric Flair cutting a promo tonight. We didn't know that was going to happen at the beginning of the night. Him saying he thinks Randy Orton's going to beat Edge in what is supposed to be the greatest wrestling match ever. That is what they're billing this pay-per-view as. I don't know who thought of this. I think it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. I think it's supposed to annoy people. It gets people talking every night that it's on television, right? And if you're supposed to get people talking, I guess it's working. But there is this part of me that's like, why? Like, where did you have to justify this by now having what is supposed to be a match better than Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat, Shawn Michaels versus you now have to have a match that's as good, if not like better than those. What do you think of that? Is that driving you nuts?
I don't know how I feel about it. It's so awkward when they mention it, like, oh, it could be the greatest wrestling match ever. It's just like, what? Why would you guys promote it as that? Also, did you hear the song that they have for this match? I don't know if it's the Backlash pay-per-view, but it's like The Greatest Showman, The Greatest Show. Like, that's the theme song. And I'm just like, really? I mean, it's a great song, but I was like, I get it. Like, The Greatest Showman, the greatest wrestling match. I kind of see what they're doing with it. Am I interested to see this match?
Do you want the tongue?
I don't know. I feel like I saw it.
Do you want it? Do you want the tongue in the cheek or do you want it on the nose? And my thing is, I think you could do it on the nose and say, if you build this as, could this be the greatest match of all time? Like, if you just simply said that would drive you crazy. You're saying this will be the greatest match of all time.
Like that's setting yourself up for disappointment.
I hope not, because I thought they're building the pay-per-view up really well. And that leads me to this. We get another promo with Edge. And if people want to say Edge is getting light duty and not having to wrestle a whole lot, he hasn't. We've only seen him get physical at WrestleMania. And this is a guy coming back from a very serious neck injury. I think we will only see him be very physical on television shows. I don't think he needs to be in the ring all the time. And the challenge here is to sell something after you already had this big built-up to match, which I thought a lot of people were disappointed by. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I know I'm in the minority there. But that was the storyline going into WrestleMania. I thought the people had sunk their teeth into the most outside of Undertaker and AJ Styles. That match left people happy. This one, the storyline was cool, but the match didn't pay off. So people were like, eh. And now you're calling it the greatest match ever. So you got to rely on these performers to really get this thing over. Edge did another great job. You can say whatever you want. He cut this promo, he connected with the camera, he talked about his history, he name-dropped all these guys he's had great matches with, called himself a 5-tool player, which is true. He was the promo guy, he was the comedy guy, he was the evil heel, he could be a babyface, he could be a tag team, he could do all these different things, and laid that all out, and had to remind you of those things, and almost in a way to say, I have to remind myself, and then brought up the kind of parlaying that into the Undertaker Last Ride series, which he appeared in, and they even played the clip later in the night of at a time when Edge thought he wasn't going to wrestle anymore. He'd say, "You got to know when the time is to hang him up," and he goes, and then he says the dead man. I was like, whoa, okay, all right. So that had a lot of weight to it. I was like, that's a guy you believe can do it, has the trust and the time. It's a tough match to sell, but did Edge sell you on it, Dom?
He didn't sell me on it, but I thought the promo was great. I don't think anybody can sell me on it unless like Austin comes in and like really like lays something down. But I think the how he delivered it, the honesty, and you can tell how genuine he is in like how bad he wants to just perform right now. And I think that really conveyed through in the promo. But to sell me on this match, it's going to take you're going to have to sell me something real big for it, because, you know, just having that huge graphic in between them that says greatest wrestling match of all time, it's too much. You're setting everybody up for it. You know, you can't achieve that. So, but I will say Edge is doing his darndest.
Yeah, Edge is great. Doing I think he's really selling it. He's selling it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Monday Night Raw, we'll get into the other big stories in the world of wrestling as my camera moves here. Sorry about that. We have plenty of other big stories to talk about here in the next few minutes, but I want you, if you're watching with us live or you're watching on demand, give us your 1 to 10 rating of Monday Night Raw. Okay, there's a wide spectrum. Okay, so 1, it's the drizzling poops. Okay. 10, it's oh my god, it's WrestleMania. Or maybe you just want to do it on a scale of, is this the best Monday Night Raw that I've ever seen? Is this better than last week's Monday Night Raw? So kind of kneel up above 5. If you think it's below that, go below 5. All right, so 5 is your middle point there. Remember that. 1 through 10. I think we all know numbers here. Dom, Monday Night Raw, 1 through 10. What do you give it this week?
I'm gonna give it an 8.3. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought the new elements they added, the pace wasn't too. I mean, 3 hours is 3 hours. It's still long, but I thought for what it was, it's good.
It didn't feel like
it didn't drag too much.
No, it didn't drag. And this is one of those weeks where sometimes I think if they have enough stuff, it pops. I'm of the side of leaning towards it being really, really good here. Iridian, what do you give it? 1 to 10?
I'm gonna give it a 6, but the women's match gets a 9.
6.
Yeah,
6.
Sorry. It didn't hold my interest a lot tonight.
Oh, where did it lose you though?
I think after like the first segment, which was the VIP lounge.
Okay.
or like the women coming out and doing that segment, I was like, oh, but the women's match got me back in, so that one gets a 9.
All right. Come on, Iridian.
That one gets a 9. Everything else is like, eh.
Oh, really?
So wait, okay, so Iridian, if that match did not exist on
if the women's match would have not happened, it would have been a 5.
You're from the crowd here. A lot of people giving it good ratings here. A lot of people going above an 8. Herman did not like it. He says he gives it a 5.5. He's kind of not too far away from it. Tommy B giving it an 8. Richard Weaver giving it a 7.5. All right, so a lot of different people. Your friend from Rest Friends, Teddy, is texting in. Thank you for watching, Teddy. Hello, Rest Friend.
Rest Friend.
We're getting it over.
Yeah, that's a good rating. Right. That's a good rating.
Yeah, she goes, I'm glad you guys are watching Raw for me. I'm here with you guys to catch me up. All right, so Teddy, I get it. What you're doing, okay? You watch.
Try to watch the women's match.
I love how everyone's Rest Friend. You say it like we're in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and we're all the Borg. We're all Rest Friend. We're all a hive mind.
You guys, this is a community. As a wrestling friend, you guys are my rest friends.
We will get into something that happened in the wrestling community today as we kind of go through the ratings here. Most people tend to be giving it a good rating here and tend to be enjoying tonight's. Here's big fan of the show. I think we know his name. What's the name you see there on the?
I'm getting ready. I don't know if you've heard of him, Kevin.
I believe I'm aware.
Oh, okay. His name is James Espanto Fernando Taguay.
And he gives it an 8. So I'm not too far away from him. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Y'all have really high ratings tonight.
Dom was on board. Dom, you gave it a better rating than I did, she was in the middle. All right, she gives it a 6. All right, so if you're watching on demand, if you're with us on the podcast side of things, let us know what you think of it here. Definitely pass it along, and if you enjoyed the show, get into it here. Eric Padone saying the crowd helped immensely. I absolutely agree. I give it just a point just for the crowd being there. Made it a whole different.
They stood for all 3 hours.
Yeah, they got paid.
I was like,
I said on Twitter, that's the new Hindu squats for the wrestlers. It's just standing for 3 hours for the Raw.
What if they go to commercial and they're like, all right, boys, come on, jumping jacks. Everybody, let's work.
yeah.
Just
loosen
Matt,
up.
Just Matt Bloom, the coach, just gets in the ring and says, all right, come on, let's see your hands. Everyone clap their hands. They're supposed to clap their hands. Like all that stuff there. It was
Kev, Eric made another good point earlier. I saw. He said, to have the greatest wrestling match of all time, you need a crowd. And that's true. I mean, you're gonna have a crowd. You'll have that crowd, but you're not gonna have like a huge audience that's gonna host, Fenway Park or whatever. You're not gonna have that reaction going on. And you really do need that for a wrestling match.
We have some news about Fenway Park in Boston. We'll get to that in a few minutes. And Boston is where SummerSlam is happening. We'll talk about that. A lot of different things to get into here as we get into the second half of the show. Once again, if you just joined us, go ahead and tell us what you thought of tonight's Monday Night Raw. A lot of different people texting in here, like some more takes here. Richard Weaver saying, I got disconnected with MVP segment. Women's match was awesome. Only good one tonight. All right. So maybe some people are joining me here in the middle of the crowd. They're with you in the middle take here. Virgil, not that Virgil, texting in. Virgil gives it a 6, so he's right there with you. And John Dameron giving it a 7. Just joining you guys to check it out. Hey, John, thanks for joining the show. Once again, if you're with us for the first time, if you're with us on the podcast side of things, thank you guys for joining us. We have a lot of new listeners in Japan. And that leads me to this. Thank you for all of them watching the show. Konnichiwa to them. And I have to bring this up. We're in the COVID-19 thing, and every show, Iridian, since you've been with us, and Dom, every show we get asked, when is wrestling going to open up again? When are they? But that's the whole world right now. And obviously at WrestleZone, sometimes we get a little bit more of an inclination of when those things are going to happen as we kind of aggregate the news. Japan is in an interesting spot, and we'll get into Boston as well. I want to touch on these. Japan is one of the first major countries outside of New Zealand that seems like it's going to return back to normal outside of China, which is where the pandemic really started. Japan has, in comparison to the United States and other major European countries, has had a very limited amount of deaths related to the COVID outbreak, and some prefectures of the country are looking to open up, specifically Tokyo, which is the largest city in the country. And of course, most people connect that with New Japan Pro Wrestling. New Japan put out a video weeks ago, and their head of the company, Harold Mage, said that at some point they will have no fans wrestling, but they'll do it with a lot of different precautions. Japan's government officials saying tonight that in the next period, their president, Abe, will be speaking in a little bit, that if he hasn't spoken already, I haven't followed up on this. This is what I followed. This is my notes from earlier today, that there's a possibility of them having gatherings of 50 or more. So that means you could have a New Japan show that would look very, very similar to what we had tonight on Monday Night Raw. There's a possibility of that this summer at some point, which lines up with what they were saying just a few weeks ago. Also from Japan, we have the very, very sad story. We have not been on air since this happened, and this was a huge one, and we will address it. I don't think we need to go into much depth into this story. The very, very sad passing of Hana Kimura. She was one of the big stars of Stardom Japan, which is under the New Japan banner now. She was a part of a reality series that aired on Netflix in Japan called Terrace House, and something happened on the show. In reality shows, people get in arguments. That is a moot point. Fans of the show did not respond nicely to Hana Kimura saying this, and it spiraled into the vicious internet cycle of very negative and toxic comments. And it seems like from following Hana Kimura's social media presence, which has been kind of scrubbed, and thankfully, her family doesn't have to be exposed to that, of her basically alluding that she took her own life. And it became a very worldwide trending topic that very much went well beyond wrestling, as people kind of looked at it as a very, very sad state of internet culture and how that can influence people's lives. The wrestling world responded to it. I had people that don't watch wrestling ask me about it. That's kind of how sad and profound this thing was. And it's just a real, it's a very, very disappointing story to follow. And it isn't something I think we need to get into. I do suggest if you know anyone like that, you influence them to positive sources of health and well-being. I can tell you, as someone who works in the alternative rock world, we've lost many different artists to mental health issues and similar things like this, and drug abuse and things of that vicious cycle that people have when they don't know how to cope with pain. And I really, really suggest, if you know anyone who's dealing with thoughts of suicide, you send them to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can Google it. The number pops up right there. You don't even have to call the number. You can text it. So look that up. It is a great resource. It's something to put in your phone or send to anyone you're worried about. And I think in this day and age, that shouldn't be something that freaks someone out if you send it to them. You send it to them because you're thinking about it. Nothing wrong to be said about that. I don't think we need to cover much more of that. Wrestling things. We can talk about lighter stuff, right? Where are wrestlers going, right? Oh, what a great transition I had there. Really, really hard to do that. We got news tonight on Monday at Raw that a certain bro could be on the move. He might not be wearing black and yellow long. He could be wearing red. He could be wearing blue. Matt Riddle is set to main event this week's Wednesday night NXT, but he could be on Monday nights or Friday nights. Matt Riddle could be on the move. That is the word we have. The story's up now at WrestleZone. Where do you want him to go? What show do you think he would fit in with? What type of matchups do you think would be fresh for? He's no longer one half of the NXT champions. He's going to have this cage fight. They're going to have a cage fight. No pinfalls, only knockouts or submissions. We're talking a worked MMA match, all right? This is professional MMA now, okay? And we're going to get that with Kurt Angle as a special guest referee. Quite the curveball for Wednesday. But is this the big send-off for Matt Riddle on NXT?
If it is, I'm disappointed because there's not going to be a crowd there, or one like how we used to have. But if he does, move up to the main roster, I would hope that it would be on SmackDown, just because I feel like SmackDown is a little bit more creative these days than Monday Night Raw. So I feel like they could do a lot more with him there.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to see him go to SmackDown as well. I think there's some better matchups there. AJ Styles just landed there and was traded there. That was a big story coming out on Friday. Daniel Bryan is there. I think, oh man, you give me Otis and Matt Riddle in a ring. Come on. That's fun. That's a lot. There's a lot of fun there. I think Matt Riddle and Baron Corbin could be a whole lot of fun. There's a lot of chances there. But Dom, what about you? Where do you think Riddle should land up if they're going to move him around?
I'm with you guys. SmackDown, I feel too. Just it being on Fox. Matt Riddle's such a talent and star, both in the ring and out of the ring, that it's the best way to capitalize on him and make the most out of him. And he's a star that you should be immediately pushing. So. Put him in your prime spotlight as soon as you can, and he'll be able to complement a lot of different talents and a lot of diverse talents on SmackDown, from veterans to younger talent. And his unique style, his unique look, it'll all translate into something new for everybody. So SmackDown would be my destination for him too.
Quite a few fans texting here hoping he would stay on NXT. He did not get to be the NXT World Champion or even the North American Champion. They get to get the tag belts here. But I do think WWE is in a systematic issue now, just because of the pandemic, where I think they need to rely on the talent that is in Florida. So call-ups right now make sense. Like, if you objectively step outside of what's going on here, you have that Raw and SmackDown talent that are not based in Florida. Some of them live around the country and they're used to just the traveling life. You ask them to go and stay 2 weeks in one place. So people say, oh, the WWE schedule is brutal right now. You have a lot of people there on the shelf getting many, many weeks off. And they come in and they work these tapings and they get to go home, and you have to monitor where people are and trace them and all those different things. And you get the impression that WWE is doing it based on how people are presented on television, right? Matt Riddle's a guy who's based in Florida. Most of those NXT guys are. I'm surprised that more have not been moved up, but obviously NXT is a show you have. People who say moved up or moved over, depending on how you want to view it. It's something to be said here. These make sense. And furthermore, sending people to NXT makes sense too. It is a show that you want to build up and give it more competition with AEW. They're trying to do something there. Kurt Angle is going to be involved. Kurt Angle's not under contract, so they're bringing him in for this one night here too. So, there's something to be said for what they're trying to do here. Stephen Chambers, he wants to see Riddle versus Lashley. That would be something special on Monday nights. It would be have him be there. A lot of different takes on that. And Joseph Priestley, he just wants him to stay in NXT. He still needs time to grow. Is it too early for Matt Riddle? Is it too early for the
so. No.
I don't think so either. I think he is charisma wise miles ahead of a lot of other people in NXT. There are things that he has taken to. The Newly Bro segment they did, I thought, was one of the funniest things that NXT had on television, and it was funny because of him. And as it gets legalized more, I'm talking about marijuana. You need a new RVD. And if you got your new RVD and it's a guy you can believe can rip someone's head off, it's him. But this does lend itself to the thing that he's been stirring the pot for years. Matt Riddle saying he wants to retire Brock Lesnar. So I have to laugh and say it because it just sounds ridiculous. And Matt Riddle's gotten into trouble with it backstage directly from Brock Lesnar telling him, dude, this isn't happening. and then Goldberg.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not.
But Matt Riddle coming out and just be like, come on, bro. Like it would it's just fun. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what you want. He's a fun character. So I'm on board with it. Another WWE related story that we have coming in here while Monday Night Raw was on the air. Drew Gulak was reportedly done with WWE just about a week ago, losing to Daniel Bryan in the Intercontinental Tournament. This is not WrestleZone saying that he's back in WWE, but some keen eyes caught this. He was in the alumni section, and now he's back on the roster page. This usually tends to be a sign that someone is in the fold of WWE. Now, could this mean that we're going to see him on television the next few weeks? Possibly. Does this mean he's signed back to WWE? No. But what does this mean for Drew Gulak? Do you want him to stay in WWE? Because if I'm him, I would sign, even if it was a short-term deal, even if it was a very, very short-term deal. The word is that he thought, oh, okay, I'm worth this. And you guys don't want to re-sign me for that. And that's the word we heard. Now, we can't confirm it, and he didn't say that. And we don't even have a super valid source in that, but that's the talk. I think Drew Gulak in WWE is a great set. I think he could be a great player on Monday Night Raw if they want to move him on NXT. He's one of those guys who's technical. Also, in the era of no fans wrestling, or at least less fans wrestling, he's a guy whose style comes out a lot better. Focus on the ring. Doesn't have to bring everything around the ring. At the same time, cut a promo with anybody. In terms of those 205 Live guys, he was the biggest personality out of all of them, and he didn't even need to have the title to be the guy that do that. If I'm WWE, I lock down Drew Gulak as much as I possibly can.
I'm with you. Yeah, I think. I would try to. If I was in Gulak's shoes, I would be with you in the regards to a short-term deal. But like Gulak has kind of the leverage right now. You kind of have your options open, and people have seen what you're capable of doing outside of just the ring work. So you've really created a name for yourself if you're Drew. Hey, if they're offering you a big money for a short-term deal, do it and see where they lead you to. Otherwise, your options are open, man. I think. It's Drew Gulak has been able to show himself. And it's been cool to see. Either way, I think he can make a right decision in this. Depending on, just don't do a long-term deal because you just don't know what that's going to lead to you for. Would be my suggestion. If I was his agent,
you're his agent now. You represent people.
If I was his agent, if I was Drew's agent, that's how I'd do it.
All right.
I thought he was doing really well with Daniel Bryan.
I did too. I enjoyed it. I thought that was a cool
keep
thing.
Him there.
Yeah, and also they had a great match. They had one of the best matches that WWE's had since WrestleMania, if not the best televised television match. If you have not seen that match, just go back and see it. If you enjoy just guys trading holds and whopping the crap out of each other, and Daniel Bryan winning made complete sense. It was a match of gamemanship, and that has been what they've been about, the game of wrestling, the actual bell to bell. They're nerds for wrestling. So I like that idea, and it sold me on it. John Dameron agrees with me, saying Gulak and DB together are gold. Are gold. It's a shame if they bring them up. Speaking of things that are shameful, let's get into this segment I didn't want to touch on, but I feel the need to get into. There's been too many things I have to talk about recently that I don't want to talk about, that are sad to bring up. And there's another one. We had to talk about the awful case of Miss Hana Kimura. We had some fun stuff this weekend with AEW Double or Nothing. Great show. Monday Night Raw was really fun. Wrestling is supposed to be fun. And even when it's not fun, how we watch it is supposed to be fun. I think my job, Dominic, and Iridian, you get this too with Rest Friends. Our purpose is watching and turning our fandom into something that combines with our professional work. You know, my professional work is I went to school for radio. Dom went to school. You went to school, Dom. We're professionals. We may be personalities. We goof around. But, you know, if I have to send you guys show notes, you guys are like, oh, something's going on here. Something's wrong. Or I have to prep you about something we're going to talk about in the show beforehand. 9 times out of 10, it's like, all right, usually it's okay. But this was one thing where I kind of had to ask, can we get into this before the show started? And it wasn't even something I felt I wanted to, but I felt the need. And when you need to talk about something, it always tends to be more serious. So if we get a little bit goofy and we go off the rails in this one, I'm okay with it. Heads up to Editor-in-Chief Bill Pritchard about me going off this. I'm taking off my WrestleZone hat. Okay, this is an unsanctioned segment. All right.
You got to turn the lights out. Turn the lights out.
I'll turn the lights out.
Turn the lights out and turn them back on.
I got to turn.
Yeah, it's got to be unsanctioned. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Room to do it. I'm not leaving the room for it, Dominic. I'm not doing that. I want to make it clear while we break this topic that I don't want to say his name, because saying his name gives him more weight and more credence and credibility. And the credibility he has, if he had any, is gone. Gone. Any credibility this person built up over time is zero. A popular YouTube personality, so we can start there, has been, getting under people's skin for quite some time and stirring the pot, right? Because that's what you need to do on YouTube, right? See, we got to learn that. See, already, and now we would be able to get our YouTube at WrestleZone going if we could stir the pot. If we could go over to like, hey, let's start some shit with Dave Meltzer, right? Dom, that's what we should do, because then Dave Meltzer's and they're gonna get mad at us, and it's just gonna be like a bunch of internet maggots going at like a dead corpse, right? So I'm gonna say this person, his name is 2 letters, and he's from a major city, right? That's his gimmick, okay? But he has quite the following online. Good for him. He's put in the work to develop a following, which we all know takes a long, long time to do. But he got into it with Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet this weekend. Ryan also appears on WWE Backstage for Fox, so it gives him a lot of guster. How can you even have an opinion about WWE if you appear on a WWE program? All that stuff. And then a clip started to circulate of this one YouTube personality whose name is 2 letters and references one city. And in the clip, it's a 24-second clip that just kind of sums up his approach to talking about wrestling and his very holier-than-thou approach, not holy as language. He addressed one Alexa Bliss, saying that the way she was performing in the ring is the same way someone would perform with you in an intimate moment and not give you pleasure, saying that they would be someone that you would not enjoy having sex with. And I've never been more embarrassed to be a part of the male gender in my entire life. I've never been more embarrassed for someone's family and someone who taught this person or mentored him. I feel so bad for people who have to kind of like feel they have to defend that. It was one of those things that was so knuckle-draggingly misogynistic and regressive. And people say, oh, he's talking about the character. That's something I saw today too. He's talking about the character. He's talking about the character. No, because if you see it, there's a joke. You and I both know a joke. I'm a comedian. I've been doing it for 10 years. I know when there's a joke. If this was a joke, it was a bad joke. Just say it's a bad joke. Say you tried to do something and you thought it was funny and you let it go. Then, okay, the worst crime you did is you said something you thought was going to be funny and it wasn't funny. Dom, how many times have I done that in the show? Oh, I've done that 25 times since we started tonight. I've tried to think of something funny, right?
I've chuckled internally. So.
Don't hide
You've
the
won.
chuckles.
You've won
Don't
for
hide the
me.
chuckles, Dom. We need them on the show. It's like the live crowd.
That's a good. I mean, I
You
don't
know?
want to laugh over people. Call me that.
We
I don't
do
wanna
have
laugh
the
over
weird throwing
people.
the football thing around here where we have to know when someone has to jump in, but that's whatever. Three of us in different. But it was just mind-boggling that people would defend it. Now people went off on it because guess who addressed it? Lexi Kaufman, Alexa Bliss. She addressed it. She put it out there. She put the guy in blast, as they say on the internet. And she wasn't the only one who did it. It is I can tell you by looking at social media metrics, this is something that probably was made around 500,000 impressions today in the last less than 24 hours on Twitter in terms of conversation and people that were involved indirectly or directly with the conversation. Braun Strowman was involved in it. Rhea Ripley was involved with it. Several, internet wrestling people were present on that conversation. And it's just one of those things that was like, if this guy represents even any segment of the wrestling audience, it's pretty depressing. And there are guys like that who do think, I should be able to say whatever I want about a performer, and it doesn't matter. But after a weekend like we've had, and even this guy in question, saying, we should be very, very careful about the things we say. And then, starts these sociopathic, just, drum up attention type things and outward narcissism, just really, really bad on the surface mental health things that you don't need to abuse other people with. So I've said enough. I think this person needs to stop what they're doing and kind of look at themselves in the mirror and maybe address those mental health issues. And who am I to say whether or not they are mentally unhealthy? But I hope for the best. I want to find any positivity, as I usually try to do, in a negative space. But to this person, I believe the language I learned in Chicago, I believe the language is fuck off. That's where I would start. So I'll just put it out there for you guys to touch on. I wanted to wait until the end of the show to even address it.
So
Where did you take it first?
I didn't even know about this person. I had no idea who he was, no idea what he did, what his podcast was even called until Lexi or Alexa Bliss retweeted it. And I was just really upset that she even had to hear it. But she did say that she had to make him accountable for what he had said, which was totally disrespectful. Like, who the hell is this asshat thinking he can say all of these things? And as a woman in the wrestling community, it's very common for males to say, things like that to us, to try to discredit you right away. But it's one thing for them to say something about her as a performer in the WWE, and then for them to say what is she? She just lays there and she takes it. That's the kind of performer that she is. And that's shitty because first of all, men are trash. And if you are not a trash man, then, you're going to know that's not going to offend you. Mm-hmm. But people were coming for this guy, and I was there for it because he was
Dumpster Drosy. He is a trash man. It will offend him.
We just interviewed him too, so it's probably not a good idea.
We
just interviewed him. So
Dumpster Drosy is a trash person, but we know exactly what you were saying. If anyone doesn't get that, go ahead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this is still happening, and that just because social media is a thing, people think that they can go ahead and say anything these days. And we know the effects that social media can have. Just this past weekend with everything that happened. So for people to come and keep saying things like this in 2020, especially, there's just so many things happening. And I thought we were in a different place, but apparently we're not. But Lexi, I'm sorry that you had to see this. I'm sorry that this asshole just brought you into this. It's unfortunate, and I'm not here for it.
Yeah, I'm also sorry about the language. I realize I dropped the F-bomb, but I just don't have I think we need to sometimes take those gloves off, right? And if we're gonna go on that, and we're gonna go into that type of language and the things he's gonna talk about, let's go into that space for a little bit, dip our toes in that dark water. Radiant, you couldn't have said it any better. I don't think we live in a time where that type of stuff is acceptable. I don't think you're asking much of people to be considerate of some other human being beyond. It's one thing to say, I don't think this person's a good wrestler. They just sat there in the ring apron but then to take things there, you're not. At that point, you're just trying to provoke a reaction. You're not really trying to say something about, oh, this match was good because this happened, and this wrestler's good because of you're not being really analytical. You're just being, check this shit out. You know, it's all. Yeah. It's a very much a when you're 13 or 14 and you think saying a dirty word makes it cool. It's very that type of mentality, and it's regressive. It's really, really regressive, and it's sad to see because this is someone who has a following and built this up and does all these different things, and to act like that means you worked against yourself. Then you've basically turned yourself into a dime store act, and you didn't need to do that. I don't need to say anything else about it, Dom. I think we've covered everything on this sad thing. I think we've given it way too much time that it needs. I'm happy I didn't say his name. That was one thing I had here on screen. Don't say the name, and I didn't say the name. But you guys can go find it if you need to see it. We'll be back later in the afternoon. Maybe Robert DeFeels will join us. I believe that is the plan.
He was too scared tonight.
He's too scared. I think.
Oh well, I'll call him out later. We'll see.
Iridian, these are two different people.
Oh man.
I was not talking about Robert DeFelis. He's not the person in question.
Oh, I'm talking about Robert DeFelis, and I'm letting it known here. I'm letting it be known here. So,
Dom, have you seen these episodes with Iridian and Robert?
No, I heard briefly that he's been roasted. RD has been roasted.
Yes, he has. He has been.
Yeah,
If you've been joining us, if you're a WrestleZone faithful, subscribe to the podcast. Follow the show on YouTube or Facebook. Iridian and Robert DeFelis, there is a certain head-banging chemistry there. I don't know if I would call it chemistry, but certainly friction creates fire, and I've enjoyed that. And hopefully, maybe even sometime in the next week or so, we will get them on the show together again. So the rhythm is this: after Monday Night Raw, you can get a live show with us. Of course, get in the podcast feed as soon as possible. Tuesday afternoons, you can join us later in the afternoon. Wednesday after NXT and AEW Dynamite, which will be another big episode this week. And then Thursdays, we're going to wrap up the week with a big question and answer session. All right, so we will be back. But more importantly, Dominic, you dropped a very, very great article today about the recent passing of Shad Gaspar and communications that you had with him over the past year about different projects and things he was working on. Tell us a little bit more about that article.
Yeah, no, it just reflected on I didn't have a really any huge relationship with Shad Gaspar by any sorts of the imagination, but we did communicate back and forth via social media. I met him briefly in New York City during WrestleMania weekend the one time, and it just something really significant happened to me during this whole past week since his passing and everything like that. And the article really focuses on that. And just focuses on what a thoughtful person he was to everybody. And I experienced it, but then when I saw it happen, when I saw the outpour of love and support that everybody was giving him online, it really made me think about how he was this to everyone. And I wanted to convey that in the piece that I wrote, and it was really. It felt good to write, and I was happy I was able to do it, just to kind of pay to such a hero and such a good guy, what I wanted to say to him. I just go to WrestleZone.com if you want to read it. It was one of my favorite pieces that I've gotten to write, and I feel very fortunate I was able to write it too.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten a chance to go read it, it's up in the editorial section at WrestleZone.com. Please go check that out. Rest Friends, busy on the podcasting front and the YouTube front. Tell me about what's going on with Rest Friends.
So, Rest Friends, we dropped a new episode of the podcast last Wednesday, and we talked about Dark Side of the Ring and everything that's been going on with that. We talked about how we're doing in this quarantine, which is hectic. I'm sure, everyone's dealing with the same things. But also every Friday or Saturday, we have a new episode of Rest Friends. We're getting back into the habit of creating that content because we have time. So make sure you guys go on YouTube and subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. Go and it's Rest Friends, not Wrestle Friends. I've had people say it to me before. So there's no LE in the middle. It's just Rest.
Oh, no, it's just one word. Rest Friends.
Yeah.
Rest Friends.
Also, Iridian, you got to check out AEW Heels. This is the female-driven fan initiative from AEW. And this was kind of like a private party Zoom chat. Tell me a little bit about that. You got to be a part of that.
It was really, really cool. So Brandy Rhodes had announced on Instagram that she was creating this community for fans who loved AEW who were women. So she had this giant Zoom call, and there was about 225 women on, plus Brandy and all of the female talent of AEW. And she just kind of explained what AEW Heels was going to be. And it was really, really cool. She said that, maybe in future shows, there was going to be an AEW Heels section, which would be a section where just all the female wrestling fans would be, maybe like pre-sale access to things. And she said we could have direct access with, the wrestlers on like virtual, like meet and greets and things like that, and like conference calls. She did something that I thought was really cool, which she put a poll up for all of the women to answer, to ask what kind of matches we would love for the women to have in the future. And we voted on a ladder match. So hopefully in AEW in the future, we could have a women's ladder match, maybe in one of these pay-per-views, who knows?
If it's nearly as good as what the fellas got to do this past Saturday, I'm very much looking forward to that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and definitely go check out that AEW post show that Dominic and I got to get into, which was very, very fun. That's up on Facebook, YouTube, and as well on the podcast feed. Search WrestleZone Radio. We also have the post show media scrum up there with Cody, John Moxley, and Tony Khan. And we just dropped an interview with Mance Warner, going to the old pay window with MLW, so that's pretty fun. A lot of big news is expected to pop off in the next day or so at WrestleZone.com. I can't comment more because we're waiting for some different shoes to drop. Dom knows what I'm talking about, but if you're listening to this on Tuesday, definitely hit up the site, WrestleZone.com. I believe, and in this stressful time, we had to talk about so many tough things tonight in the second half of the show, but I believe when we watch wrestling, we can still do this one thing, even if there's hockey boards up. What is that, Iridia?
I think the word you're looking for is enjoy, right? You enjoy wrestling. Please, everyone, just enjoy it. Don't be haters. Be good people in the wrestling community.
I like that. That's better than just the one single sign-off thing. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Let's go with that. Yeah.